Greetings everyone, it's Mikhail and excited news. Maxon just released new Cinema 4D with new particle system inside. So I'm so happy with it because I really like to create particle effects, and this tutorial I'm gonna shed some light on basic techniques, how to create your own setup with new particle system, how to achieve the interesting result. I also gonna shed some light, some sort of new modifiers which could be applied to particle system with Cinema 4D forces, and also some sort of conditions. So if you're up for it, let's get started. Okay, we're inside Cinema 4D. First thing first, let's go to the menu. As you see, some sort of menu highlighted by yellow. That means it's got some of updates, So we want to focus on simulation because we have a particle step here, and there are a bunch of particle groups, actually not a groups, actually particles tabs, when you can find emitters here: basic emitter, mesh emitter, reproduce, spline emitter. It's not big deal to work with these emitters. Today we just start with basic emitter. Also we have a groups to control particle groups, such as particle group or multi-group if you want to control several group in one time. And the power of thinking is condition, because you can create some sort of condition to control your particles, to tell them how they should behave, So, and some sort of particle modifiers such as color mapper, data mapper, math, kill. There are a bunch of modifiers, So let's start from the beginning, just a simple setup. Moreover, if you want to get a basic knowledge about particles, I highly recommend check Sign version on Cinema 4D, actually on Maxon website. Nozman create pretty nice fundamental knowledge about particles. It's just a simple course about maybe 7 chapters, as I remember. It really helps to me to understand how it works. And it's already available on Maxon website, so highly recommend if you want to get the basics. Today we will start with basics as well, but I want to create setup from scratch because it's, to my opinion, it's more interesting when you create a setup from scratch and get some sort of result in the end, So I want to focus on few things today. Just create simple emitter, check how it works with collision, how to create some sort of particle to particles interaction modifiers, and how to get interesting result. So let's get started. First of all, let's go to simulate, go to the emitters and create basic emitter. So basic emitter by default has just a rectangle, representing viewport, and it's immediately create a group. Every new particle emitters will create a group because we want to control it, and it's pretty easy to control by the group, especially if you add redshift tag on this group. You can render it directly in redshift, So it's pretty nice when you have bunch of groups, you can manipulate of them, and you can mix them, control one group, change group, etc. So, but today let's focus on emitter, okay? Basic emitter has some sort of simple shape like rectangle, circle, cube, sphere. I want to focus on sphere, and press play, and we got this one, yeah? So here is a bunch of parameters, especially emission mode, shot mode, constant pulse. Shot mode, you just create a shot, like, let me show you, like 1 million particles, it's just a shot, yeah? And we have to deactivate continuous just to get 1 million particles in one time. Take a look how fast it is, So, but I want to create maybe just 10,000 particles with constant mode, not shot, Let me show ya. Yeah, something like that, yeah. Yeah, this is the basic, You can change emitter shape or something, pretty straightforward. If you go to the properties, there are a bunch of parameters such as particle group, it's created by default, Lifetime, if you want to create just a 20 frame lifetime, and you see how it cut off here, because after 20 frame it's deleted. So let me switch by default, okay. Velocity means some sort of speed. By default it equals 100. Let's change it by 0, okay? And particle direction, you can use direction as axis, normal, radial, random, target, custom. There are a bunch of parameters. Let's focus on basic today, not dive so deeper. And emitter velocity, in case you want to animate your emitter, rotate, change position, then you want to apply this velocity which you create by your hands to your particles, you can activate it, like this, and also control linear velocity and angular velocity as well. So I think you got the idea. Right, alignment by default at velocity direction, bunch of parameters as well. Angular velocity when particles rotate, for instance, and constant in color. By default constant, you can use random. It's immediately create random gradient to get random representation particles. But I want to control it by modifiers, and radius as well. So, but when you create a group has also size and radius and represent, for instance, by arrows, dots, or ticks, on lines or handles. It always depends what kind of effect you want to achieve. If in case you want to see how particles spin around or rotating, I think you should use some sort of arrows or ticks, or maybe handles, So let's move forward. First of all, let me create just a simple emitter. We already created, yeah? Let me change my emission from rate 1000 maybe to, I don't know, sorry, from 10,000 to maybe 5,000, yeah? So we got this emitter, yeah? And let me just create simple maybe animation for that. I want to create keyframe. Actually, we can use some sort of animation tag, vibrate tag, activate position. Let me change frequency by 0.1, I would say, and amplitude. Let's start from 500, Let me check how it looks. Yeah, it looks like that. Pretty slow. Let me increase by 1 maybe. Yeah, take a look. We got something, I don't know, something weird, because we don't have any velocity. As you remember, we just go to the properties and change our speed, our velocity to 0. I do it in order to control my velocity by turbulence, for instance. If right now I go to the forces, let me actually grab restep these forces, and create a turbulence, yeah? We can increase turbulence strength by 15, for instance, and create scale by 100. Let me run my simulation and take a look. We got something interesting, yeah? So, so far so good. We can also use some sort of additional modifiers. All the new particles works with all forces inside Cinema 4D, such as turbulence, field force, which is one of the powerful, I think, tool, gravity, etc. So, in order to correctly organize your scene, I highly recommend place your turbulence inside a group. When you placed any modifiers inside the group, this modifier will apply only to this group. In case you have a bunch of groups, you can separate different modifiers or different conditions, by groups. That's pretty good. That's pretty nice to control the particles. So let me run one more time. Maybe let me change amplitude by 800. Okay, so as we don't have any gravity, our particles just moving around like that, Actually, I don't like this result. Let me create it by my hands, just to create maybe few keyframes like this, okay? And after that, like this, just to change by 0 again. Let me check it. Yeah, it's much smoother, yeah. So far so good. Let's increase count of frames in our scene. And I want to create gravity. So by default, it's just a default gravity. If we press play, our particles will falling down, and we got some sort of this, animation. Yeah, so nothing specific. But I want to get some colliders inside our scene, So let me create just a simple plane. Actually, let me grab my emitter, change Y. position by 100, for instance. Let me increase scale for my plane like a floor. Let's start from 1500 like this, just a big. Go to the plane, go to the basic, change color to something like dark gray, just to good represent our particles. Let me rotate it and press play again. Yeah, our particles penetrate, moving through, I would say, with plane. In order to fix it, we have to select plane, simulation, collider. But it won't work because in particle system you have to create one more modifier. It's called simulation modifiers. Collider looks the same, almost the same icon, but I think Maxon create this modifier because it's some sort of condition as well. You can use additional thing in this collider. When your particle collide, you can create a new target group, and it's pretty straightforward. One more thing, you have to use C4D hierarchy, and I highly recommend place collider after all conditions, modifier, etc. in order to get proper result. So in collider, you go on the collider tag. There are a bunch of modes like collision. If right now we press play, we got some sort of collision, yeah, but it looks not perfect, I would say, because by default it looks intersection, you know. I think it's not bad, definitely, yeah, but you also have a radius, and if you press play, you see how you see some sort of gap, you know, between our floor and our particles. But because default radius equals 10, I also use radius like a 0 when I want to get my particles collide with the floor, and, for instance. And actually, I'm not big fan so bouncy particles, you know, so I'm just decrease my bounce by 10 maybe. And also we have two parameters, dynamic friction and angle variation. Angle variation is some sort of angle which particles colliding on the surface. So in order to achieve more realistic result, I change angle variation as well, like a 50% for instance. Dynamic frictions, actually, let me show ya. Right now we got this one. Take a look. If we increase dynamic frictions, take a look. We got a lot of frictions like here. Oh, we kind of tell our particles sliding over the surface. You also have to care about this tag because particles respect these bounds and friction as well. For instance, if I increase friction here, we got a bit different result. Take a look, we got friction here. So in our case, I think 0.05 would be enough. Yeah, maybe bounce 0.1. Actually, maybe 0.1. Yeah. So as you see, we got some sort of, I don't know, simple sand. Yeah, not a sand of course, because it's just a particles. But what next? Let me actually show you how to control it. First of all, I want to create I want to change particle group, actually change represented. You can change size here, just to change for 2 for instance. Always depends on scale of scene, and we got good represent of our particles, yeah, but it's not actual radius, you know, because actual radius, I would say, it's here in basic emitter, in properties and radius, but radius equals 1. In order to represent your radius, you have to go to the particle group, activate radius. For instance, if I change the size, it's just to represent size of your particles in viewport. If you change the 0.1, we didn't see this small, you know, we have some sort of not field circle, yeah, but it's actual radius. For instance, if you just go to the basic emitter, you know, go to the radius and change variations here by 5, for instance, you got, I think, different radius, yeah, take a look, represented by circle, but it's some sort of make your report slower. I would recommend it use if you want to control radius, just to check this with your condition or something, you know, to check the radius, and afterwards switch back, you know, in a group, just to deactivate radius and, for instance, create just a size represent here. So as for me, it looks good, yeah. So what next? I want to create some sort of particle collision. I mean, particle-to-particle collision, but currently cinema 4D particles don't support it, you know. So in this case we have a kind of interaction modifier which called modifiers here, which called float. By default, float, it's for float system like fish in the sea, like birds in the air or something. They try to avoid each other, like push apart from each other and connect to each other. There are a bunch of parameters. Today we will focus only on cohesion and separation. For instance, if we deactivate cohesion for now, we have separation radius equals 2.5, but our actual particle radius is, let me revert by just 1. We have to go to the actually let me place all our modifiers inside particle group, just organize it. So in case we want to separate from each other, we can use the same radius. So let me show ya, and we got something, yeah. Maybe it's too big to represent, maybe 0.5, let me check. Yeah, so you got some sort of, I would say, fake granule effect, you know. Nothing specific, but what if I want to somehow connect these particles with each other? So in this case we can use cohesion. Let me increase cohesion radius by 10, okay. Let me run my simulation one more time. Take a look. They try to connect each other. Maybe we should increase cohesion strength as well. Let me show you. Yeah. Let's actually for now deactivate separation. Take a look. They try to connect each other like a fluids. Of course it's not a real fluids, but you can achieve some sort of fake result with fluids. I'm gonna shed some lights on this technique as well. Create some sort of melting effect, etc. You know. But today I want to recreate one of my effects with some granules. First thing first, let me actually change cohesion by 1 and I mean strength and cohesion radius by 5. Also, we have a strength here, let me increase by 2. And I also want to decrease maximum speed from 10,000 by, I don't know, 5,000 maybe. And let me change radius for separation by 2 and increase separation strength by 1. Let me check how it looks. We got something, yeah. As you see, it's pretty fast, yeah. Despite the fact which we use a pretty complex simulation like flow, I mean modifier, you know. So, but it's hard to recognize your particles, how it looks. For that, I'm just trying to use simple modifier. Actually, let me grab these modifiers as well. Yeah, I want to use color mapper. This is the data mapper modifier. Let me place it here. So by default it uses H properties, so it will map colors by H, and by default it's just red because our range lower and upper equals 0 frames. Let me change by 200 for instance, and as you see it's changing during the simulation time in the viewport, you know. So you can colorize your particle by H and bunch of parameters like alignment, angular velocity, color, distance travel, etc, etc. Today I want to focus on velocity, and actually by default it property velocity extract just X, you know. So we will map color by X velocity. Let me show ya. Yeah, take a look. Only by X. Let me switch to Z. Yeah, this one, and if you switch to Y, I'm not sure if it will be visible. Yeah, because it's Y, yeah. So, but we also have a magnitude. Magnitude, it's some sort of velocity from the center, as I know, and in this case we can play around, and we got some sort of velocity distribution in the viewport. So, fastest particles will colored by blue, you know, and slowest particles will cover by red. So you can adjust it here, just change upper and lower, maybe 200, maybe 300, just to get more interesting result, you know. Clamp it here. Let me switch to this color gradient to get this one. Yeah, as for me looks good, but it's still moving very fast. In this case, I want to create just an additional modifier. It's called friction. Let me place it here, maybe before color modifier. And I think 10 strengths it's enough for this case. Let me show ya. Yeah, take a look. We got something interesting, right? So maybe we should select our emitter. Show tracks. Okay. Let me find it here. I think we can somehow repeat it. Or just, yeah, repeat it. And let me check, it should repeat. Yeah, it's continuously create this one. So, so far so good. Let me try to adjust interesting looking shape for you. Maybe increase, go to the particles, increase size here. Just to represent and go to the color mapper. 250 maybe. Let me actually delete this one, this one, this one, and this one. Yeah, and change color like that. Something like brighter. And change this by, I don't know, maybe some sort of black, yeah, color. Let me clamp it a bit, just to get something. And let me go to the my flow modifier and maybe decrease strength by 1 and maybe increase separation by 2, maybe separation radius by 3. Yeah, take a look. We definitely got something. So maybe that's not so bad. Let's go to the collide and change angle variation and increase dynamic friction as well, like that. Take a look. We got something interesting, like I don't know, like a Granule effect. Of course it's not a real Granule because particles doesn't have real collisions, you know, particles don't have real collisions right now. But anyway, take a look how interesting looking this shape. Maybe we have to change our frictions here as well, just a 0.05. It also some sort of balance, you know, between your particles here and here. So try to play around with it. Let me change strength by my friction as well. So take a look. We got interesting result like my teaser, you know. So in case you want to render it, you just can play around with Redshift. Of course, it's not a Redshift tutorial, but I want to show you because it's just first time when we use the particles, you know, and you have to know how it works. Especially currently, I want to get pretty neat result in render. That's why I want to go to the my emitter emissions, you know, and increase range. Sorry, not range, rate from 50,000 maybe by 100,000 per frame, oh sorry, per second. Make sure if you switch between per second and per frame, 100,000 per frame it's too much, maybe per second it's much better. Let me show you one more time. Yeah, take a look how good it is, how fast it is, you know. In case you want to see how many particles in viewport right now, you can select, as I remember, particle groups and go to the point mode, and we already got these total particles. It's 5033 5033 particles in the viewport. That's pretty good, pretty nice, you know. So I think you got an idea. As you remember, in the beginning we're talking about some properties of the particles and we're talking about velocity. In case you want to get more velocity from emitter, you can increase it by 100, you know, open this little arrow. We right now we focus on linear velocity, you know. Let me show you. Yeah, take a look. It's a bit different because right now our particles respect velocity of emitter which we create by hands. Yeah, so you just can play around with it. For instance, create it's like a 50, you know. And if you want to add additional velocity like an angular velocity, we can go to the emitter, for instance, create some sort of this one. Let me create some sort of keyframes like that, for instance, 360. And let me show you. Take a look. Let's respect this velocity as well. So let me create just a simple render tag arrays object tag. Use optimize sphere, I would say it would be enough. And let me create simple dome light with maybe, let me check, maybe this HDRI, you know, place it here. And maybe create standard material, just a floor material. Yep. Let me make it like a white floor. I want to check if my redshift, by default it's use automatic sampling. That's okay, I think, just a tutorial. Let me show ya. Yeah, we got this one. Yeah. And let me create one more material and apply it to the particles directly to the particle group. Yeah, so we got this one. Yeah, in case you want to represent color, you just can use simple color user data connected directly to the color and choose particles color here. So I immediately get this one. Let me play around with my HDRI -2 maybe. Oh, sorry, not 2, -2. Okay, just try to find interesting looking angle. Maybe like that, maybe like that. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, maybe it's too dark. Let me switch to 0. Yeah, so take a glance. That looks pretty interesting. Yeah. In case you want to cache your particles, you can play around with group. Here's a cache tab. You can cache directly to the alembic, you know, and if you want to cache only velocity or just the radius or something, you can deactivate it or activate it. In our case, I don't want to cache it because some of the huge, I would say, animation provided Bucky files, so I think I have one of the file which size about 50 gigabytes, you know, so it's up to you. Actually, let me go to the turbulence, change strength by 10 and maybe increase scale by 150. Let me check how it looks. Yep, maybe increase turbulence. Yeah. And maybe just to play around with some sort of colors here, just to get interesting looking particles here in the viewport. So I think you got the general idea how to create it. Actually, let me check if my particles won't intersect. Something actually wrong, because it has to be. Let me go to the particle group, draw, increase by 3 maybe. Sorry, increase by 3. Okay, just to see in viewport. Let me create a camera. Okay. Change it a bit, like that maybe. Okay. Maybe 1. Yep. So it is what it is. We got this result. Of course, it has to be adjust with some of the parameters, you know, like a gradient here. You can also use a noise for that. For instance, let me run a bit. Yeah, You can also use a noise, for instance, switch to the noise, and if you use noise, our particles pass through the noise, by default it's turbulent noise. We can increase scale by 800, for instance, and create an animation speed for this noise like that or like that. I think there are a lot of parameters which you can use to create your own effect, and also fields. It's pretty good as well, because you can create some sort of, let me actually create a spherical field and check how it looks. Yeah, only in spherical field area, you can colorize your particles or something. I think you got the idea, because there are a lot of nice stuff which you can play around, like noises, and something. Take a look, it looks pretty nice, like a rainbow particles here. Take a look, yeah, and you can colorize it here as well. Let me actually try to freeze it. I'm not sure if it works. I want to freeze. No, it not works. That's bad, but anyway, take a look. It's pretty interesting result, but I highly prefer, I would say, velocity with magnitude, like maybe this. Maybe it's not perfect, I would say, perfect looking shape, but it's not design tutorial, it's more about general technique. Let me actually try to find something interesting here. Take a look, I can manipulate it very fast with these color mapper modifiers. So I think you got the general idea. Yep. So that's it for this part. Leave a comment if you have any questions about it, and see you very soon on next tutorial.